that she added that the honorable members have been identified as key players in the data collection process. The process will be administered to all members through an online survey, questionnaire and key informats interviews for selected members of parliament, and began on Monday 4th until Thursday 21st of November 2024.
She further encouraged honorable members to actively participate in the midterm evaluation of the National Assembly 2022 to 2026 strategic plan as insights, and this will enrich the findings of evaluation, which is aimed at enhancing parliamentary work. It seems like we do have a quorum now, and of course back to the floor of the House.
When business was suspended, the House was considering the motion on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2025 to 31st December 2025, presented to the National Assembly in 2024. And the Honorable Member for Sinazongwe was debating. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before we went for a break, I was looking at the same head 44, which is the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, and also emphasizing the importance of this ministry, Mr. Speaker, to say the investment that we are seeing now under the new Dawn administration, especially in the mining sector, it needs this ministry to really up its game. The only way this ministry, Mr. Speaker, can up its game is by allocating enough resources for it. I gave an example of what is obtaining, Mr. Speaker, in Sinazongwe, where I've seen a lot of mines coming up. A lot of mines coming up, Mr. Speaker, meaning a lot of people have been employed. They need labor officers to be dotted around in our respective districts where mining activities and other investments are taking place. So it is important, Mr. Speaker, that these officers that are there, though not enough, they need to enjoy their work. They need to be given a lot of incentives. They need to have even a motorbike to travel to and from. Also, even the accommodation aspect. So, meaning the resources that are needed under this ministry, Mr. Speaker, they are not enough. So, the ministry needs to look at attending to these issues. Now, coming to the other ministry or head, Mr. Speaker, which is head 9, Minister of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, we are experiencing a sad situation in the country because the 2023-2024 farming season, we never harvested anything, so to say, as a country due to the drought that we experienced. Now, this is a wake-up call, Mr. Speaker, to say we really need to invest a lot in this ministry, meaning we shouldn't be treating just rainy season as the only farming period, like what the President states. It should be every month, it should be a month of planting, every month should be a month of harvesting every year. So that's the only way, Mr. Speaker, we can promote food sustainability in our country. Now, looking at the allocation, Mr. Speaker, for the Ministry of Agriculture, it was about 13 billion 561 million 831 kwacha, 831,810 kwacha, So meaning this money, it went up compared to last year. Now, this year, Mr. Speaker, we are talking of having enough rains, but believe me, in some areas like the valleys, southern part of Southern Province, also even the eastern part, the southern part of Eastern Province, there is likelihood of having floods, Mr. Speaker. So we need to know exactly what the ministry is thinking in terms of preparedness, so that where we are going to have floods, Mr. Speaker, once the rains are over, we need to utilize the same pieces of land, because by that time they will be called, they will be termed as wetlands. So we need to have enough resources, Mr. Speaker, to put aside for usage during the winter farming, and also utilization of all our wetlands, so that at least poverty levels can be reduced, and also we promote food sustainability in our country. So, Mr. Speaker, it's very important that we, as much as we have invested under means of mines, we need to put concerted efforts under means of agriculture, so that at least each and every household should have some food to look to in terms of need. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I do support the budget. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The Honourable Member from Mbawala.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving the good people of Mbawala an opportunity to debate and support the estimates of revenue and expenditure for 2025, as ably presented by the Honourable Minister of Finance, Honourable Dr. Msogotwani, as bearer of a wonderful message from His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema. First of all, Mr. Speaker, I want to reflect with our people in Mbawala who have been hit by disaster through the rains that have come. We welcome the rains as they have provided water for our animals and indeed our human beings. But we have had a disaster in Chirantambo where we lost 70 houses plus 2 classrooms and a library. Mr. Speaker, moving on to the report on estimates of revenue and expenditure, I wish to first of all comment on the macroeconomic indicators, to which I commend the Home Minister for these very good targets which have been put here, because Mr. Speaker, we are coming from an environment where this country was growing negatively. Our colleagues in PF left us in the negative on the GDP growth. And as New Dawn UPND government, through the able leadership of His Excellency, we have seen positive growth from the time we came into power. Therefore, the focus on the various macroeconomic indicators is correct and should be supported based on the excellent work done by His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema and Cabinet, which is every doing the job. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to debate just a little bit on the heads 45 and 46, just to amplify 1 or 2 messages, especially on head 45, Means of Community Development and Social Services. My amplification message is on the allocation to the Human Resource and Administration Sub-Program. My interest here, or our interest as Mbawala, is to ensure that we get more social workers to be recruited in this ministry, because, Mr. Speaker, most of the issues we face as citizens in our communities can be resolved by the availability of social workers and community development officers. Therefore, I want to support the movement of funds from human resource and from administrative areas to the area of human resource recruitment of social workers, as well as to the allocation towards child development. Following the enactment of the Child Code Act, Mr. Speaker, we need now to allocate more and more resources to ensure that the Child Code Act is fully implemented in this country for the good of our children and our communities. Under head 46, Means of Health, I wish to simply amplify, Mr. Speaker, the need for allocation or bring back the fund for medical equipment. Medical equipment plays a key role
in our health facilities, and this fund needed to be maintained and not reduced. Further, again, recruitment of health staff. The recruitment of health staff, Mr. Speaker, we want to advocate for an increase in the various types of health workers, such as ophthalmologists, optometrists, public health nurses, and other professions that are not regularly recruited for. So this is the cause for diversity in the recruitment of health workers, so that we can have the other professions also in our communities. And also, I wish to also amplify the need for increasing the budget for sexual reproductive health services, because this is an area which is facing a big challenge. The teenage pregnancy, which went up to 29%, which we now have to reduce because our friends were not putting money in those areas. HIV had started increasing, we now have to control it. So therefore, we need an increase of funds in those areas so that we can be able to contain the challenge we are facing as a government which we inherited these challenges because of many years of negligence where there was no funding to these areas. Mr. Speaker, my last area of interest is on the also recruitment of extension officers, agriculture and livestock and fisheries extension officers in our blocks and camps. Our agriculture system is designed in such a way that we've got blocks, and in the block you have got agriculture camps. Most of our agriculture camps don't have extension officers, Mr. Speaker, and therefore I want to also call for that head on the livestock and fisheries, especially in the area of livestock, to ensure that we've got a livestock extension officer in every camp who is housed in that camp so that they can be reachable and accessible to our farmers when they need them to look after their cattle, after their goat, or anything else. Similarly, for the agricultural camp officers. This is one way, Mr. Speaker, we are going to ensure that production is very high in our country, because it is from farming that we can grow our economy. If we are all productive, then we will be able to grow our economy. If we are not productive, then we are going to have challenges. And this production depends a lot on the agricultural extension officers, both in the area of livestock and the fisheries. Mr. Speaker, I also want to, on the revenue side, speak on the need to continuously look at the various ways of waiving duties on the livestock medicines. Medicines for cattle and other common diseases, since those diseases which are managed by the farmers, the ones which we call these are managed by the farmers, we need to relook at the duty for those medicines so that we can make it a bit more affordable for our farmers of livestock to be able to treat their animals and ensure that we've got quality beef and quality other livestock for the export, because it is from export that we can make a little bit more revenue from all of us. We want also to appeal to the Minister of Agriculture to help us with the
Honourable Member.
Mr. Speaker, with these words of support, I wish to support this head and commend the Honourable Minister of Finance for a good job well done. Thank you so much. And the Committee of Charity and his team. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Extended Budget Committee, isn't it?
The Honourable Member for Namwala.
I'm here to support you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to add 2-3 sentences to this motion which is on the floor of this House now. Mr. Speaker, allow me to look at Head 44, which is the Ministry of Labor. We are aware that the core function of the ministry is to formulate and administer regulations that relates to labor and social security. Going by the allocation which was made or that has been assigned for 2025, we all agree that the amount is not enough. However, going by the allocations which were given to the ministry before, I think we would say the government has done wonders. Now, despite all the amounts that has been allocated, Mr. Speaker, we still have a lot of things that need to be done under the Ministry of Labor. This is the ministry which is supposed to be in all the 116 districts, but to the contrary, we only have their presence in less than 58 districts. And this alone is a minus in the sense that the people have been assigned to actually perform their obligations, like the inspectors, labor inspectors. They are unable to perform their duties because they don't have transport. And this has actually affected the performance of the ministry. Yes, indeed, in the budget, we are aware that 104 million or billion was allocated, but we still need more. And there was amount that was allocated specifically to buy motor vehicles. But when you look at the area that ought to be covered, it's very important that the committee that has been assigned, or which was assigned to look at the budget, actually saw it inevitable that the recommendation of the committee that looked at the issue of labor was actually some of the recommendations they made were considered. One among others was the issue of looking at buying the motorcycles rather than having the 4 motor vehicles which the ministry had proposed. And that alone, Mr. Speaker, will help the ministry to touch to all corners of this country, in that when we look at the value that was assigned for 4 motor vehicles, if we translate it to getting the motorbike, it will mean the Ministry of Labor will be everywhere. And this is what we're looking for, because we want to ensure that the inspectors perform their duties and reports to the relevant authority about the happenings in our country. Apart from that, Mr. Speaker, it is also important to indicate that there are a lot of disputes that have been actually witnessed in the labor industry. But because of lack of the presence of the people who have been assigned to ensure that all issues relating to labor matters are reported reasonably or within time, that is not happening because of the issue of transport. So if this budget is going to be actually implemented, we will say at least halfway of the work that needs to be done under that ministry will be performed. Apart from that, Mr. Speaker, allow me also to look at the education sector. This is the sector, Mr. Speaker, which is actually the largest in this country. This is the sector that needs attention, and we are happy that the Nudon government has allocated reasonable amounts, and we hope that this amount, Mr. Speaker, will be put to good use as before from the time we took over. Mr. Speaker, from the amount that has been allocated, there are a couple of issues that are supposed to be performed within the 2025. One among others, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of recruitment of new teachers, construction of schools, feeding programs, supply of desks, and free education itself. When we look at the education sector, Mr. Speaker, the free education that we have actually enjoyed from the time the Nudon government came into power, we have actually increased the number of pupils or learners in this country by 2 million. This is not a small number, Mr. Speaker. What it means is now that a lot of people or our children who were home before are now able to access at least education to a certain level. And these things don't just come, Mr. Speaker, they go with planning. And it's the planning that we thank the Nudon government that things that they advocated for the time when we were in opposition, we are now able to implement, and you see on the face of everyone to see that indeed what we were advocating for, somehow, some extent, we have achieved. The feeding program, Mr. Speaker, the President and the Minister of Finance, I'm happy that they repeatedly actually pronounced the issue of feeding program. This, Mr. Speaker, alone gives an impetus to our ongoing children, to our own school-going children, in that the children will be able to get to school, learn, and they'll know very well that by lunch they'll have something to eat, which will keep them either to proceed with lessons or to go back home whilst they're still strong. And this, Mr. Speaker, alone has encouraged the children not to miss classes. And this is the way it's supposed to be, and we have always looked for that. Mr. Speaker, it's also important to indicate that on the issue of free education, Mr. Speaker, this country had a lot of children or youths who were growing without actually knowing the importance of getting to school. And the other thing was because the parents were unable to take them to school. Others was because they never saw the importance of going to school. But with the coming to power of the Northern government, Mr. Speaker, we have seen that now in all corners of this country, we are able to send our children to school. And an emphasis has always been pressed by the President that anyone who keeps children who are supposed to be in class, we need to look at it from a different angle. That person should be called an enemy of education, and they should not have space in this country. Mr. Speaker, our children ought to get to school. We need to have an enlightened community so that we are able to develop our country. We have been talking about developing our country, Mr. Speaker. Without the element of education, we can't go anywhere. So education ought to be placed at the core of development. Mr. Speaker, it's also important to indicate that now our schools, through CDF and direct from the central government, we are able now to provide the sitting arrangement, the proper sitting arrangement for our children. What I mean that is that, Mr. Speaker, now we have desks throughout the schools. And this year actually enabled our children to learn in an environment that we have always looked for. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I submit.
The Acting Leader of Government Business, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn.
The question is that the House do now adjourn. Any debate, any objection? The question is agreed to the House. Is now adjourned.
That brings the Parliament closer to you, and the House has adjourned, so business resumes tomorrow, Friday at 09 hours. Time now to look at the business which was considered on the floor of the House today. So when business resumed sitting this afternoon, Madam Speaker did make three announcements, and then the first announcement, Madam Speaker did remind the House that in March 2023, the National Assembly of Zambia did launch the National Assembly of Zambia Strategic Plan 2022 to 2026. Thus, at the end of June 2024, marked the midpoint of the implementation program. She stated that in this regard, the National Assembly, through the Monitoring and Evaluation Department, has commissioned a mid-term evaluation of the strategic plan, which is being undertaken with the support from the Interpares European Union Global Project to strengthen the capacity of parliaments, as well as Zambia Monitoring and Evaluation Association, Zambia. Madam Speaker, further stated that the mid-term evaluation presents an ideal opportunity for the National Assembly to gain valuable insights into the progress made thus far, identify challenges and offer recommendations and key priorities for the remaining period of the strategic plan. Madam Speaker further stated that the honorable members have been identified as key players in the data collection process. The process will be administered to all members through an online survey, questionnaire and key informants, interviews for selected members of parliament, and began on Monday 4th until Thursday 21st November 2024. Madam Speaker, I did encourage all honorable members to actively participate in the midterm evaluation of the National Assembly 2022 to 2026 strategic plan. Their insights will enrich the findings of the evaluation, which is aimed at enhancing parliamentary work. So that was the first announcement, which was announced by Madam Speaker. And in the second announcement, Madam Speaker did recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Fountain Gate Christian Academy in Lusaka District. And in the third announcement, Madam Speaker did recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Fountain Gate Christian Academy in Lusaka District. And on behalf of the National Assembly, Madam Speaker did warmly welcome the visitors to the National Assembly of Zambia. Thereafter, we did see the House considering two urgent questions. These are questions which fall under Standing Order 82, and three ordinary questions under Standing Order 82. Question 107 did lapse by virtue of a member not being present in the House. So right now we look at the details of the answers which were provided by ministers. So question 106 did come from Mr. Chinga Miyutu, who is the Kalabo Central Member of Parliament. He did ask the Minister of Health in A why Yuka Adventist Mission Hospital in Kalabo District was closed, and the Minister did say that the hospital was not closed, but only there was only suspension in inpatient services. In answering Part B on measures that are being taken to mitigate the impact of the closure of the health facility on the local community, the Minister did outline some of the measures, which include outpatient department is operational, patients requiring specialized treatment are being referred to Kalabo General Hospital. The other question which was considered is question 107, which did come from Mr. Yotam Mutachalo, who is a Chairman of a Member of Parliament. He did ask the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security. He wanted to find out whether the government is aware that the Chama Muyombe Road between Kanyelele, Chama Junction and Kafutu area has been blocked by armed foreigners who are demanding the release from police custody over their counterparts in Chama District, thereby threatening peace and security in the area. And the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security did say that the government is aware of the situation. Thereafter, the House did consider questions for all answers, Standing Order 80. These are ordinary questions. And question 108 did come from Mr. Kalie Mandandi, who is a Sioma Member of Parliament. He did ask the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. He wanted to find out whether the staff houses at Sikuka Roads Camp in Sioma District, which are in a deplorable state, are ordered by the government. And in response, the Minister did say that government is aware. In answering Part B of the question, which was whether there are any plans to rehabilitate the houses, the Minister did say that yes, indeed, government has got plans to rehabilitate these houses once funds are made available. So just like I did mention earlier on, that question 107, which was expected to come from Mr. Francis Kapianga, did lapse because he wasn't around in the House. Thereafter, the House did consider the motion of supply, which was moved by Finance and National Planning Minister, Dr. Stombeko Mosokotwani, that the House do now resolve into the Committee of Supply on estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2025 to 31st December 2025, presented to the National Assembly in September 2024. And we did see quite a number of members of Parliament who did add their voices to this motion. That's included Mr. Menyan Zulu, Nyimba Member of Parliament, Mr. Giftis Yalubalo, Sinazongwe Member of Parliament, Mr. Joseph Musanje Bavala Member of Parliament. Wow, that's what we could bring for you into the transmission. We urge you to still get glued to Parliament Television, the station that brings the Parliament closer to you. And on behalf of my co-presenter, Paul St. Ndovi, and our two sign language interpreters, Chola Kaoma and Jason Manda,
I am Joe Akatama. Have a lovely evening.